All right, let's talk Cincinnati Bengals. We are gearing up for the 2025 campaign, folks. Just a few days away, and this Bengals team is obviously one of the top contenders in the AFC North, frankly, in the entire AFC. With Joe Burrow behind center, they've got a really bright future. But there's one move they made, one addition that I think now that we've had the preseason all training camp to take a step back and compare against the entire National Football League, right? Take a wide view, not just a narrow view on the team, but a wide view on this player in the context of the National Football League world during the preseason. It's clear the Bengals have pulled off a massive win here. We'll get into that data and that reporting in just 1 second. But first, I'm Nick, that is Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, the Cincinnati Bengals, of course, going into the season, a lot of talent at a lot of position, but a big question mark, as it always seems to be with the Cincinnati Bengals, is the offensive line, right? Specifically, the interior of the offensive line as we head into the 2025 season. Now, the Bengals tried to address it in the draft with Dylan Fairchild. He seems to be absolutely outstanding. Jalen Rivers did some good things when it came to playing some at the guard position when he stepped up due to injury. They added Risner as a guy to come and be a veteran depth piece. We'll see how much he plays. I think he should have a positive impact. But when you circle back to Dylan Fairchild, it's clear the Bengals pulled off one of the greatest in terms of, I think it's what do you call it, a steal, a value move, or just a find, or just an incredible pick, right? You talk about just crushing it from the get-go. And I understand it's preseason football, and we've done a lot of film reviews on Fairchild, but when you look at the data, we're going to take sort of our opinions out of it, right? Film review, hey, look, that's our opinion. We've got our opinions, love them, like them, disregard them. That's what we've got, but we wanted to be unbiased here and just look at data. So let's pull up the chart here, courtesy of Pro Football Focus, looking at the entire preseason here. And this is the top grading offensive lineman you can see on the screen here in the entire preseason of the entire rookie class, right? And Fairchild, remember, he wasn't like a top 5 pick or something like that. You can see on the far right their offensive grade and the rankings on the left. And they go Fairchild, number 1, Will Campbell, first rounder for the Patriots. Number 2, Gray Zabel, first rounder for Seattle right there. Willie Lampkin, a great steal from the Rams, now with Philadelphia. Then you have Banks, Williams, Wormley, Kendall, West, and Huber kind of rounding out the list. But you can see at the very top here, the top 3 guys, you have Fairchild, number 1, and you have Campbell and Zabel right there. And guess who's number 1, 1.4 points better? It's Fairchild. Now look, remember, Campbell, first round pick, generational prospect. Gray Zabel, coming out of North Dakota State, was considered a great pick by Seattle Seahawks, a massive guy, great selection by them, across the board, phenomenal. But who's better? Who has a better rating? It's Fairchild. Now, again, it's preseason, right? Competition matters and schemes matter, and all of that will come to a head when the regular season starts, right? That we all understand that. But the reality is, based on the data we have in front of us here, the Cincinnati Bengals got the best offensive lineman in the draft at their biggest position of need. I'm going to say that again one more time so that you Cincinnati fans can pause for a second. The Bengals, at their biggest position of weakness, got the best player in the draft. This isn't our opinion. This isn't Mel Kiper's opinion or McShay's opinion or some beat writer's opinion or someone who's really too close to the Bengals' opinion or ESPN or Fox Sports opinion. This is what the data says. Unbiased, unfettered data. But here's where it gets even more interesting, and this is really an important fact to consider, is that some of these guys, namely Campbell and Zabel, they're high up on the list because they had a relatively small snap count. They didn't play a whole lot of snaps in the preseason. So that means if you don't do anything too hard or don't do anything too bad, you'll have a really high grade. But when you look at what Fairchild did against players that had a baseline higher snap count, and let's go to our next graphic here to highlight what I'm talking about if you don't mind here, just showcasing exactly how good he was in those moments. This is the top O lineman in the preseason that had significant playing time, going left to right in descending order. You see Dylan Fairchild, then Willie Lampkin, then Banks, then Williams, then Wormley, and then Drew Kendall. All of these guys got significant playing time. So some of the top 5 picks, top 10 picks, they didn't get a lot of playing time, right? It's just the way it works. But among the guys that played a lot of football, right? Fairchild played a lot of football. Obviously, he started for the Bengals, but he played a lot of snaps. He was clearly the best. It wasn't even close. Look at that gap right there between Fairchild and Lampkin and compared to the rest of the crew. Among all the offensive linemen that got a lot of reps, Fairchild was so far ahead, it's not even funny. I mean, this is a big leap right here. We're looking at the gap between 1 and 2 is about the same as the gap between 2 and 8, 2 and 9 in this list here. Just lapping the field as Fairchild. And one of the things that can happen when you play more reps as an offensive lineman, especially with PFF grades, it can get really hard, really quick to maintain a high grade, right? You have one false start. You have one holding penalty. You give up one sack. You may have 100 amazing plays, but you have one sack and suddenly your grade plummets. PFF is unforgiving for offensive linemen. But the more reps Fairchild got, he maintained it. He got better, actually, when he got more opportunities in the preseason. And this is why I think Bengals fans, you guys should be so excited. We know the offensive line was a huge problem. Obviously, went out and added a veteran, and that's outstanding. But when you look at the future of this team, the present and the future, Dylan Fairchild is it. He is such a phenomenal player for the Cincinnati Bengals. A great selection, great attitude, great physicality. Highlighted it in our film reviews. If you haven't seen them, please go check them out. They're on our channel. But we're talking about a guy here who is everything the Bengals could have ever wanted for based on a film, our opinion, experts, what the Bengals are saying internally, and what the data is saying. Because one of the things that can happen this time of year is as we get into the preseason and training camp, each team kind of gets siloed, right? And you know this as fans, of course, right? You're following all training camp, you're following all preseason, and then you hear about certain players and how great they're doing, and like, oh, wow, it's doing really good to see. But they're competing against themselves. You're only following a team, right? And if you look at the rest of the NFL, as we like to do, every team believes they have, if you listen to the reports, about 50 steals, about 50 phenomenal players. But when you actually can take a step back now, look at the entire data that we have for the entire preseason set, it's clear that the Bengals have the steal of the draft, the steal of the year, an incredible move, whatever we want to call it, whatever superlative you want to use, the Cincinnati Bengals got it in Dylan Fairchild. And again, that's not our opinion. That's not a Bengals beat writer's opinion. That's just cold, hard data saying that, and that is a great sign for Cincinnati. All right, Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on all of this. But first, Bengals fans, in the comment section below, regular season just a few short days away now, so now's your last chance. Give us your prediction for the Bengals' final regular season record. Don't worry about the postseason. Don't worry about any, playoff expectations or anything like that in terms of how you think they'll do in the postseason. But give us your expectations for the Bengals' regular season record: 13-4, 12-5, 10-7, whatever it may be. Give us your expectation for the Bengals record and give us a little reason why too. Give us a little information why you think they'll get to that point and put it in the comment section below. But Miles, let me throw it over to you now. What are your thoughts on this latest out of Cincinnati?
Yeah, Nick, I think when you look at what Cincinnati has done this offseason, I think it is very interesting because probably as Cincinnati fans know, the biggest, problem last year, you alluded to it, it was the offensive line. So starting out at this offseason, getting your receivers locked down, you got Joe Burrow now, you got T. Higgins, you got Chase. That all looks good. But the question that everyone said is, hey, why have we not added any offensive linemen to the fray here? Why have we not done that? And I think it's because Cincinnati had a plan. They had an idea of what they wanted to do. They didn't want to go out and break the market as far as go and get free agents or trade for guys with a ton of draft capital and bring in really expensive, probably slightly overpaid veteran additions to the offensive line. They did go out and get some guys, and I think those guys are going to do well enough as far as what the Bengals need in store here. But the plan was to go out and get young guys that could be the future for this team and could give them that ever-present 4-year window as far as being on a rookie deal, being cheaper, and being good players. That's what they get here with Fairchild, and also with another guy that we kind of like is Rivers as well. They got two young offensive linemen who Fairchild may be the more now answer. Rivers might be a more of a future option as well, but Fairchild in particular, really looking at what is going on with him, I think he's a great addition to this Bengals squad, not only because he was the top performing offensive lineman in the preseason, but because of the implications of what they would have to do to get a guy like that. They'd have to pay a lot of money or a lot of draft capital to go up and get a guy in the spot that they were able to get Dylan Fairchild in. As far as being the best guy throughout the preseason, as far as grades and things like that go, this is going to be a guy that adds a lot of value to this Bengals team for the next few years at a very steep discount if he continues the level of play that he has done so far. And there's no reason to think that he wouldn't do that. So I think this is a great sign for the Bengals front office, showing that, hey, sometimes, there's a lot of stigmas when it comes to Bengals front office. Bengals fans can name probably about 50 right now. Cheap, don't really take care of players necessarily. I think that's a lot changing as far as with Katie Blackburn being involved, but still there's some things floating around there. But I think this time around it's different. The Bengals had a different plan. It's not that they didn't want to go out and spend a ton of money on veteran offensive linemen. It's because they want to get young guys and bring them in and have them perform and just be discounted, really good contributors to this offensive line going forward. Definitely what they got in Dylan Fairchild. I think this is a great move for the Bengals for an offense.
Yeah, and just to highlight something here that I thought was very interesting, and I had to double check this just to make sure, is that last season, the 2024 season, there were two teams that finished in the bottom five in both run blocking and pass blocking. One was the New England Patriots, right? And they were absolutely terrible. They went 3-14. The other was the Cincinnati Bengals. And it speaks to the greatness of Burrow and Jamar Chase, the fact that they were able to win 9 games, especially with their defensive issues, my goodness, despite being that bad at offensive line again. So what did the Patriots do? Because they were so terrible as a team, they were able to go out and get Will Campbell early in first round, top 5, top 10 pick, right? And address that issue up front and center. The Bengals, because they won 9 games, couldn't. Now they got Shamar Stewart in the first round. We'll see how that pans out because they have to fix a defense. But then they got later in the draft, of course, the Fairchild, right? And that's the real value there, is that they got the best offensive line in the preseason. Again, based on the data, not our opinion. That's what the analytics say here. And when it comes to PFF grades, I tend to lean more towards trusting them than general opinions at this point, now that we're in the meat of playing. But obviously you guys can disagree with that. But when I look at what the Bengals did here, is that they got the best player, not with the top 5 pick like the Patriots did. And I think that's so important to understand. When you look at the structure of the team, the front office moves, it's about finding value. It's about supplementing your roster that already has Joe Burrow, already has T. Higgins, already has Jamar Chase. It says, how can we address our holes? How can we get better with limited draft capital? Because that's just the reality of the situation. We got a great quarterback and some of the great players. They're going to cost a lot of money, right? And the Bengals, looks like they got it done, guys, with Dylan Fairchild. And look, I understand it was only preseason, right? We're not into the regular season yet. We'll see how he has to do against live football, against really good teams. And it's not always going to be perfect. He's a rookie offensive lineman. There's going to be mistakes. But at this point, it's undeniable. When you look at the guys that are doing well across the NFL, you talk to people that know football, and they say, Will Campbell looks like a stud. Sable looks like a stud. They're saying the same thing about Fairchild, and that's exactly what the data says too, right? You look at the people that are lumped together that are good, Fairchild is part of that group every single time. You look at the people that sit there and say, I'm not ready to play. Fairchild, not part of that group. One of the things I always like to say in my eyes, I know you probably get tired of me saying this, is that good players are good players all of the time. Whether it's in rookie minicamp, whether it's in OTAs, whether it's in mandatory minicamp, whether it's in the training camp phase, whether it's in preseason, whether it's in game week, whether it's on Sundays. Good players are good all of the time, right? That's just a fact. Dylan Fairchild has been good all the time up to this point. I think right now we have to agree that he's probably going to be good during the regular season. Again, he's a rookie, not going to be perfect. There's going to be bumps along the way. But it's very clear at this point that the Bengals absolutely crushed it with this move right here. It's not getting a lot of media attention because it's an offensive lineman. But you talk about the biggest rookie impact day one for any team in football, not just Cincinnati, any team in football, I think Dylan Fairchild has a great chance to be at the top of that list.